First of all, let me say hi to Bill and hi to yourself, and I'm very delighted to have the opportunity to respond to the questions of Avalonians. My name is Simon Parks. I'm a politician. I'm a local elected councillor for the town that I live in, and ever since I've been a very young boy, small boy, I've had experiences with what I prefer to call interdimensional or extra-dimensional entities. I've also come from a family which people would refer to as an Illuminati background family, and about three and a half years ago I decided to go public with my experiences and my family, and I'm very, very delighted that I stood for an election after I'd gone public and I was elected. I'm delighted because the public were able to have access to that information, and yet they still chose to elect me. And I think that bodes very well for humanity in the future. That's a very, very hard question. My answer will shock people, and they won't be the answer they expected, and it's the mantids, or the mantis. And that will really surprise and shock people.
Why?
Because they will expect the Palladians or the Andromedians or one other humanoid group. They won't expect the answer I've just given. It's difficult because mantids take part in abductions, and a number of people have quite rightly reported mantids have hurt them. So for me to sit here and then say, well, actually the mantids are the human race's, one of the human race's best I can't use the word get out of jail card, but they are one of the most helpful and will become one of the most helpful assets that humanity can get its hand on. But most people will have a great difficulty in understanding that. I think also that they are humanoid, and so people can connect with a creature that has a humanoid form, and a creature that's not humanoid, people will have a problem with trust, even people who are beginning to become awake. The reality is that beyond this there is and I use the word lightly, there's a game being played out, and it has been for thousands of years. The mantids are absolutely centre to this game, and people don't actually realise that although the mantids are in agreement with the reptiles and have for many thousands of years, but the mantids have their own plan at the end of it. Indigenously, no. Transplanted, yes. So for instance, the Adam and Eve base is on the moon, or is it the Eve base on Mars? I forget now. But of the bases that are currently existent on the moon and Mars, there is life there, but that isn't life that was already there, that's life that's arrived there. Previous existence have long since gone. The other gaseous planets have life, but not advanced life in this form, no. I don't accept hollow earth. What I do accept is caverns in the earth where facilities can be placed. Small cities can be built, but the concept of a hollow earth, in terms of a hollowed out earth, no. But certainly if we're talking about considerable size facilities, then I would accept that, but not a hollow earth, no.
So by considerable size cities, do you mean something like the size of London?
No, that's too big. Okay. No, I would say a population of 100,000.
Okay. But the earth is not hollow?
No, because if you imagine, if you were to, as they often do, set explosions off on the earth, if it was anything like the moon, you would get a hollow pinging back. But because the sound waves coming back from anything from geological to testing for oil, coming back generally showing a solid base. However, there is one part, and we were talking about Antarctica, which isn't hollow in the true sense of the word hollow earth, but there are large cavernous areas there where cities have been in the past and some are active now. So you could call it hollow, but I don't want to get imagine like the moon or anything like that that's hollowed out on the inside. I don't want you to imagine a sort of a football, basically. It's not like that. A reptilian mentality is one of arrogance, power, self-assuredness, absolute belief in the right to dominate others through any force that's necessary, without love, absolutely addicted to ritual and ceremony. A mantid is not a creature that exists to control in terms of physical force, but exists to be a referee or an arbiter between different universes, different groups. So the mantid's role is one of, in a football match, being a referee. But it only works if both sides agree that that referee can have the power to decide who is right and who is wrong. To prevent massive wars, the mantids have actually been given that role by a number of races. In terms of love, no, mantids don't have love as humans understand it, but mantids have compassion. That's the difference. Yeah, so I much prefer to be in the company of a mantid than I do. If I'm in the company of a mantid, I can be much more relaxed. I don't have to be careful what I'm going to communicate, and I don't have to be on my guard. If I'm in the company of a reptile, I have to be extremely careful what I communicate, and I have to be on my guard all the time. If you could imagine a new oil field found somewhere off the coast of America, and America has the boats to go and get the oil, but it doesn't have the drilling technology, so it goes to the Germans, and the Germans provide the drilling rig, but they don't have, actually it should be the optics, shouldn't it? The Germans should provide the optics, and the British supply this, that and the other. In terms of humanity, for a very long time, a number of alien races have pooled their resources to interact with humanity. So to a certain extent, the mantid race, which is a fourth dimensional race, and the reptilian, or the Draco reptilian, which is a fourth dimensional race, do share a number of goals and will participate together. However, they have their own individual goals themselves, which are not necessarily mutually supportive of each other, and having to be careful because there's a lot to play out on that particular topic. Those are not valued. Human aliens value things like that in music. They don't value that. They do value being at peace with themselves, and that might be by playing a resonance of sound, which they then feel very comfortable with. They don't pursue sports. Their pursuit is, when I say knowledge, I don't mean knowledge in the human sense, but knowledge of other races and how those races can interact with each other. That's their pursuit. No, they don't. We use the term hive mind, and you are capable of being hooked in to a hive mind, and therefore you will have the knowledge that your grade gives you. So any living creature that has a hierarchical system clearly has not evolved far enough, and the mantids know they haven't evolved far enough, and they wish to evolve spiritually. That's very important. So if you are created, then you are either going, in a mantid, you are either going to be a doctor, a computer expert, or a pilot, or you're going to be a decision maker, so what they refer to as a master. So you are placed into a stratified area, and you will learn the knowledge that you are required to know to carry out the function of that task. But you don't have to go to an educational establishment to learn that. They don't breathe oxygen. Very interesting. I remember in a communication with one, and it started to, I don't know if anybody's ever seen and can remember Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator film, Terminator 2. And by the end of the film, Terminator 2, Cameron, by the way, is a very interesting director, but we'll leave him aside. But at the end of it, the computer had learnt to tell a joke. So the Terminator had begun to understand humour. But whether it had understood it or whether it just knew when to interact with it. So these creatures are the same. They don't naturally have humour, but they understand humans. And for instance, when interacting with a human, they will use hand gestures, even though they're communicating from mind to mind. They will use a hand gesture because they understand that humans use hand gestures, and therefore it makes the human more at ease. So they have learnt to be appropriate around a human, whereas other creatures don't give a damn. Why should they bother?
Like the reptilians.
Like the reptilians. But semantics do not have a sense of humour, but they will mirror or reflect back a person's personality in an attempt to gain some form of acceptance. We'll start with the easy answer, which is first of all the reptiles. The reptiles want to remain the status quo. They want to, doesn't matter what the technology on the earth is, no matter what your religion is, as long as you are a subservient race, the reptiles are fine with that. So they don't care if you can do this and do that. As long as they have ultimate control over you, they don't care. You can be seen to be evolving or developing, as long as you don't throw them off. So that is their goal. There are a key number of human groups who have decided that it is time to end that dominance. But they can't do it by force on the planet. But they have used force from space. So physical force has been used, and will continue to be used. And the key outcome will be, see, people don't understand this. I'm probably very pedantic, but I refer to earth humans and humans. Because if you are an earth human, that means you have an earth human soul. So you have a human body, but you have a human soul. That is a soul that's been recycled on earth for ages. But you could have a human body but have an alien human soul. So you could be Lyran, you could be Palladian, or you could be Syrian, which are the three purest human groups. But you're still not human in earth human times, but you are to the greater human. So we have three key players: Lyran, which is the purest of the human group, and then you've got the group that split to Cyrus, and then you've got the Palladians. The Palladians actually are human, are incredibly warlike, and people don't understand this. They think the Palladians are actually incredibly warlike. And remember, when the Palladians came here, there wasn't a single creature that could contain their frequency except the dolphins. The dolphin was the only creature whose body was capable of maintaining a frequency of the Palladians, and that's why Palladian people are absolutely connected to the water and to dolphins. And that is why lots of children will want to go to play with the dolphins. And did you know in America that it is illegal for any American citizen to have a contact with a dolphin unless it is through an organisation? Because the elite know and it is illegal in America for, if you went down to the beach and you saw a dolphin and you touched it, you could be arrested. Because the elite know. But you have, that's why there are groups in America, organizations, very profitable, and you can send your kid and you pay lots of thousands of dollars and you can go and swim with the dolphins. It's allowed to do that. But they are always infiltrated by CIA or NSA because they know what's going on. That's why there's so many oil spills. That's why they want to kill dolphins, because of that. So the Palladian group has a very big future on this planet. So have the Lyrans. So have the Syrians. And the Mantis have an important part to play. So those are the key players in the future. And you'll notice that there's one group that's missed out there, which is the reptilian group. That's my answer. With any group, you will find splinter groups going off, allying, forming. I certainly don't use Americanisms. I certainly don't buy the idea of large numbers of Palladians forming any sort of alliance with other reptilian groups simply because they've been at war with them for too long. They are totally opposed to the values. Each their own values are totally different. No, I don't accept that. I do accept the fact that there may be hybridization, where there are Palladian type creatures who have been hybridized with reptilians, and perhaps themselves they don't know which side of the fence they're on. That is possible. That is much more likely if people are reporting seeing these beings. I would suggest that that's what they're seeing. They think they have reached the pinnacle, that there is no further way to go. If you were to have a debate with a senior reptilian, he would tell you that mammals smell. He would tell you that mammals have to evolve and change to survive and adapt, and that he doesn't have to change because he's been in that form for absolutely millions and millions of years, and reptiles don't need to evolve, therefore they've reached the pinnacle, they've reached the top point, there is nothing better than them, and everyone else is inferior. So that is the mindset. That's not true.
Okay.
They have been largely contained. In other words, a number of bases that they were existent on have been taken out. There are still a number of bases where there are just a few hundred left in the earth now, just a few hundred.
Right.
They are still there, but they are not, they're putting their head up above the parapet, shall we say. They're not receiving any reinforcements. That's very important. They can, and they are, because if they weren't, we would have thrown off the bonds and we would be charging headlong towards freedom. They're still very much pulling the strings and influencing us directly. I would say 90% of them are.
Yeah.
I would say 90% of them. And the Avalon, I would just change that as jinn, which is an interdimensional species. So I would disagree with him. To me, the Avalon is a name for an interdimensional species, which is the jinn. If I just very quickly talk about the jinn, it's something that's very little on the internet, very little read about. When humanity arrived here, its consciousness expanded, and the dominant life form on the planet in a non-physical form was a jinn. And when human expansion of its consciousness took place, the jinn were forced out of the third dimension, but not quite into the fourth. So they inhabited the space between the third and the fourth. As a result of that, they've absolutely hated humanity. They are related to the reptilians. The reptilians were working with humans, and the reptilians did not allow the jinn to take reprisal actions against the humans. And because this jinn or Avalon exists between the third and the fourth dimension. They're accessible from the third, and so the reptilians trained certain members of what we call the Illuminati to have the power to conjure or bring forth these creatures, and they use them predominantly to attach to humans, humans that they are very interested in. And so this is part of the magic that they can pull through. In the Western world, we really think of elves, fairies, goblins and jinn. We don't understand it. But in the Eastern world, the Quran not only talks about them, but how to get rid of them.
Right.
And if we think about the stories we have of Aladdin and the lamp, and the word genie is just simply jinn, but unfortunately in the West we're forgetting our learning.